Good morning, Chris. How are you?
Anthony, Franco, happy Tuesday to you. Happy holidays. Are you in the festive spirit? Are you getting the holiday spirit?
I am. Like this weekend, we're breaking out the Festivus poll, so I'm very excited about that.
When are we going to do the annual airing?
I have two daughters, so I win every year on the feats of strength. So I'm really looking forward to our Festivus celebration.
That actually,
and anybody that doesn't know what Festivus is, I'm sorry, you'll just have to figure it out.
It really is. It's tough for us to relate to these people that have not seen every episode of Seinfeld.
Exactly right. I've got. It's hard to top it, but I've got my dad joke ready. Do you have one?
I mean, always, Anthony.
All right, go. You go. Or you want me to go?
Well, I was trying to set the whole thing up and not saying like, here's the dad joke, but you go right ahead.
No, go.
Ruin my setup.
All right. Pretend erase that. Chris, how about your holidays? How's your holidays coming?
My holidays are great. You know what I did is I put together my Christmas list, and on that Christmas list, there's this pen that I really, really want. It's a super cool space age pen, and it can write underwater. It can also write other words as well.
Like, if it's I was thinking, when do you need to write underwater in space? But okay, mine is a silly one told to me by my sister-in-law. What do sweet potatoes wear to bed?
I don't know, Anthony. What do sweet potatoes wear to bed?
Yammies.
That shouldn't be laughing.
It's not good. It's not good, but it's good because it's not good.
What if the most unethical thing you do in sales is refuse to apply pressure? Marcus Sheridan, founder of River Pools and Spas, nearly lost his business in 2008 until he started answering the pricing question competitors avoided. He published transparent cost breakdowns on his website, a move that made prospects uncomfortable but accelerated their decisions. Within 2 years, River Pools became the most trafficked pool website in the world.
Sheridan used a lot of chlorine.
That's a lot of chlorine. Sheridan didn't manipulate. He applied information pressure that forced buyers off the fence. That discomfort was the service. Today, on How to Founder Anthony, we are going to be talking about leveraging psychological triggers in sales. I'm your host, Chris Franks. With me, Mr. Anthony Franco, and we are joined today by Mr. Wes Schaeffer, who has a really cool accent. He is the sales whisperer. Spent 30 years proving that psychological triggers aren't manipulation. They're the mechanism that moves stuck buyers towards decisions they need to make. Wes, welcome. Apologies for the dad jokes, unless you got a worse one. Do you have a worse dad joke, Wes?
Well, I mean, I'm from Louisiana, man, and they only taught us 25 letters of the alphabet, so I don't know why.
Well played,
that's a good one. That's a good one.
Played. That is pretty good. Also thrown in there. All right, so let's just start with a big question, Wes. Why do founders, why do they not think about psychological triggers and more, or why do they feel like applying pressure in the sales process is icky? I mean, I was going to say manipulative, but they just feel like, oh, I don't want to do that. I don't want to push. I don't want to make people make decisions, etc. What is that feeling that we get when we know we need to actually push people towards the sale?
Well, we grow up thinking sales is icky. You know, it's built into our psychology, and we're one of the I don't know if we're one of the few nations, but I think it's a Western thing. You know, when you go to Asia, when you go to the Middle East, you haggle. You know, it's just expected. But we've been sold the lie that money is evil, right? Not the love of money. So we grow up our entire lives, literally, you know, not discussing sex, religion, politics, business, and mixed company. And it's like, that's all I want to talk about.
I was gonna say, make a list of those, Anthony. Things you're doing. Sexual, okay, got it. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I mean, and look, I love college football. I played college football, but you like the whole world right now is just got their panties in a wad about the CFP playoffs. So it's all bread and circus, you know. So if you've studied, you know, the old Roman times, and you know, literally he'd bring them in, feed the Christians to the lions, and throw bread out into the crowd. And as long as they were entertained and fed, they could be controlled. And so it's just more, we're just being controlled. You know, psychological triggers are everywhere. People just don't realize it. Like fish don't realize they're wet, right? It's just their environment. We're manipulated left and right, but we don't know it. So we think it's all ick, but it's like, dude, it's being done to you all the time.
It's funny, Wes, is I when I was just out of college, I got really fortunate. I got to go to Morocco, and we went into I think it was Tangiers or Casablanca.
Chris, wait.
Am I back?
I see, Chris.
I froze too. We all froze for a second.
Well, maybe it was just you. Actually, I've just been doing the pop and lock. But I went to Tangiers in Morocco, and they are Tangier in Morocco, and they said it's the national sport is haggling. It's because you get off and it's just constant haggling. Anthony, when I say the word salesperson to you, what pops into your mind? What is the connotation that pops into your mind?
I mean, I think it's the same for everybody. I'm buying a used car.
Yeah, I think Wes, like that is probably the biggest issue I think that we have with sales collectively is that mental image of the salesperson. It pops up that we're thinking about somebody in a plaid suit that's trying to sell us a car we don't want. Is that a fair connotation?
Yeah. So I say this so often, right? I have it on my desk. I'll do a little mentalism, you know, when I have time. I'm like, describe a salesperson: arrogant, greedy, pushy, money hungry, you know. So pushy always comes up. And then they're like, I don't want to be pushy. Like, okay, that's fine. But you don't have to be pushy if you understand what is going on, because there is a fine line between persuasion and manipulation. Okay. And the difference is, are you doing it for their benefit or for yours? Okay. Dan Ariely wrote a book years ago called Predictably Irrational. When you give people too many choices, they actually literally make a dumb choice more times than not. You got to narrow things down, give people a few options, you know, say, hey, based on what you told me, I recommend, you know, A, B, and C would be a good fit. I recommend B because of this, this, and this, but it's, you know, your choice. Oh, I don't know, blah, blah, blah. So you can let them just wallow in their pain, right? I mean, if you can truly help them, then you owe it to them and to yourself to get, you know, give them a nudge to pull the trigger and ride the bullet, you know, and because we all just sit around and, you know, the devil that we know is better than the devil we don't know. But, you know, if they're calling you for assistance, you know, people, we're not just bored and say, let me call a salesperson today and get a demo. I mean, that's not really all that often.
Anthony does that all the time, but it's just because he really likes screwing with salespeople. It's just,
yeah. I saw something, it was years ago, but it was something like 67% of people that go into a store, you know, they want to buy something and walk out not buying it because they don't get any help. And I know it's only gotten worse.
I want to address that question first, because I think that when I came up in sales, Wes, I was taught the traditional sales process. I was taught to qualify. I was taught to educate. I was taught to feature, function, benefit, all this stuff that kind of was normal at the time. What was different in the time that I was taught sales was I had the information The person across from me did not.
Yep.
We now live in a world where I think I read that the average person before they buy a car is going to do 8 to 10 hours of research before they go in to talk to a sales professional.
Yeah.
They already know what they want. They've already looked at it. They've already done this stuff. And so I think that there's this interesting shift where it's not anymore about controlled information and about what information I feed to this person when. It's now about helping them understand the information that they've already gathered. Is that a fair way to look at it?
Yeah. Yeah. So before they wouldn't buy because of lack of information. Now they don't buy because they have paralysis analysis. So they, Zig Ziglar always said this, that, the selling is a transference of a feeling, and that feeling is confidence. So when they come to you and they think they're an expert, and they may know about this one model of this one car than I do if I'm the salesperson, right? Because I've got to know all of them. And they just spent 2 months researching, and they want this certain one with this certain color and this certain configuration. They want it for this certain price. So you've got to figure out as a salesperson, do you want to do the dance or do you want to do the deal? And so I sold retail. I sold mobile homes for a couple of years. I mean, people would come in, and we had gross margins that we had to hit, or we took a huge hit in commissions. But if somebody came in ready to go, and they threw out a low number, and I knew they weren't playing, and I knew they could and would buy, I would just tell them straight up, will you pay that price if I print the paperwork right now? Yes, deal. Shake on it. I go print it. Okay, so I do the deal in an hour and I'm done. I make less money, but as far as my time per hour, it was about the same. Because, usually you got to go walk around, you got to hem and haw, it takes a couple of weeks. So you got to figure out, when to do that deal. So you got to understand people. Can you read the room? Our job in sales is to adjust how we sell to match how the prospect buys. Most salespeople want to shove them into, oh, no, you're going to sit your ass down. You're going to watch all 87 slides on this deck, and like, yeah, good luck with that, man. And I met a guy, he's now a good friend. This was, golly, probably 12 years ago or more. I wanted a truck, and I called the Ford dealership 10 minutes away. I saw a used truck they had, and they had a new one. And I go in, and there was a new sales guy, and I said, look, man, I'll take either one of these trucks. Which one can you make the best deal on? I want the best deal. New or used, I don't give a crap. Make it sweet. I'll sign the paperwork right now. These people start playing games, and I had called the BMW ship is across the freeway, so a little harder to get to, but 15 minutes away instead of 10. But I'm lazy. I don't like driving. And they had a nice BMW, and I said, okay, I'll come see that. But so on the way though, we went to the Ford dealership, and I was going to buy the Ford and leave the BMW guy high and dry. Ford played these games. Hey, let me get your keys, and we're going to do an analysis and blah blah blah. And they played too many games. Hey, I need to get something out of my car. Let me get my keys real quick. And I never should have given my keys anyway. But so I took the keys, took my wife, we got in the car and left. Never went back. Drove over to the BMW dealership. David has this nice 5 Series backed in right in the front. And one of these it's like a 3-foot tall plastic stand, probably cost $50. A little narrow plastic stand, wide base, came up, angled backwards. It fit an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. And he just printed my name, Welcome Wes Schaeffer, and slid it in. And I go, oh my gosh, this is awesome. Drove the car around the block. We haggled all up. He says, I can take $500 off. It was a used car. It was a good price. I didn't allow it. I said, you know what? You treated me right. I'm not even going to fight. I'll take the $500. We signed right then and there. We bought like 3 cars from him and referred multiple people to him over the years, to a used car salesman.
I think that you hit on a
treated me right.
Really, really interesting points there. And the first one, Anthony, is the tyranny of choice. And it's a terrific book, by the way, Predictably Irrational. But this idea that if we have too many choices, and we end up freezing because we can't make a basic decision.
Yeah.
And so, Anthony, in your experience, like you were selling throughout this time as the internet was becoming, and there's more information available, et cetera. Have on either side of a sales transaction, when was the last time you bought a car, Anthony? Did you walk in? Did you know what you wanted to buy, or were you allowed yourself to be guided through this? And then talk to me about how you think about research just as a buyer.
There's so many things going through my head that I agree with what Wes was saying. Back up one quick second. This notion that you're not selling, you're helping, it is something that is way easier said than done. To get in the mindset that you're truly there to, as a salesperson, and if you're a founder, you're a salesperson. Sorry to tell you, but you are. The idea that you're there not to sell them something, but to help them with their problem. And you may or may not be the solution. Your company may or may not be the solution. I think that's the right mindset to go through, but I've heard that said, I don't know how many times. It's almost a trope. It's almost like you roll your eyes when you hear it. But it's said because nobody does that. Nobody can lock into that mindset. But to answer your question a little bit deeper, actually, I have a question, because as I watch my buying behaviors, I almost never interact with the salesperson anymore. I'm wondering, Wes, genuinely wondering, where does the craft of sales go in a landscape that one often doesn't want to deal with a real person. A lot of customers don't want to deal with a real person, and two, where they have all the information in front of them. Why do I need to talk to somebody? I'll give you a great example. Whenever I'm looking for like a piece of software that can do something, something on websites, I'm browsing some kind of functionality, CRM, whatever, right? And it says the prices and a free trial. And then I hit to a website that looks like it's really going to do the job for me. And there's no pricing there. It's click here to talk to a salesperson. I don't even give them give it a second thought. I'm like, oh, I'm out.
Nope. Yep.
So I would love your insight on how do we apply this craft of salesmanship and also one little added point to that, a lot of founders don't want to do sales and they just want to do mass marketing because they think that's easier. I'd love your insight on all of that.
Yeah. And those guys are screwing up. If I don't see pricing, the first thing I do, I go to Reddit. And you want to be cooked, do some bullshit like that and have guys start talking about you on Reddit. Everything's available. You think you're being cute by hiding the price. It'll be found out, and now you start finding out things they don't want you to know because guys are honest over there, But I'm dealing with this right now. And I've been saying, and I think I coined the term, maybe I should trademark it. I don't know. But I keep saying that humanity is the next killer app. I wrote about this the other day. Hi, thank you for calling Acme Inc. Your call is very important to us. Please remain on the line while our menu has changed. Your menu has changed nonstop for 23 years. Kiss my lily white ass. Why can't a human being answer the phone? Oh, doesn't scale. Oh, profitability. Okay. So make me waste my time, to make it easier for you. I'm talking about CRMs. I've sold CRMs since 2007. I found a new tool. I'm working with 2 clients right now, helping them pick a tool. Because you're right, everything is out there, but it is so confusing. I'm on Reddit every day, and I'm in the CRM subreddit every day. Somebody's, here's my situation. Which one should I get? It's just all so confusing. You know, this one guy, like, I want this, I want that, I want email, I want integration, I want to set up the contact record card in a certain way. I want the history right in front. Oh, and I want to spend $50 a month. I'm like, well, good luck with that, Sparky. You know,
Vibe code it. Yeah.
yeah, I'm a vibe code. Well, good luck with that too. You know, it's like that works for a second, you know, and then again, go to Reddit, start digging deeper. Like, oh, this thing blew up. Because when those vibe codes break up, and I love AI. I'm selling agents. I love it, you know, but it's for light work, you know, take care of the tedious stuff. So, and, you know, and these founders, and I get it. I tell them too, if you truly understand sales, but a lot of them don't. A lot of them suffer from the E-myth, right? That Michael Gerber talked about. Most entrepreneurs are not entrepreneurs, because that was, you know, the E-myth is the myth of being an entrepreneur. He said most of them are technicians with fits of entrepreneurism. Okay, they're tinkerers. They're technicians, and so they don't understand sales. You know, and I sit with people, and the hardest thing, man, at the very beginning, they're like, "Well, we should get this tool, that tool." I'm like, "What are you going to say to people? How are you going to find it when you get them on the phone? When you send an email, what are you going to say? Why will they get their attention? And what action do you want them to take as a result of getting that voicemail, that email, or that letter in the mail?" Can I get back to you? You know, it's hard.
I want to get specific for a second, because I think it's interesting. And I think that the first part of this conversation is about mindset, and it really is about this idea that what is the job to be done. And if I can summarize what we've said to this point is that there is information available for all things. And really one of the job, particularly founder-led sales, Anthony, is to help people not only, it's not about delivering information, it's about making sense of that information. And I think, Wes, what you're saying is that the job to be done of a modern salesperson is to help people make a decision. And a decision really is that key point there. We need to help people make decisions, whether that be yes or no, et cetera, based on the needs of that individual. And so I want to talk about how we do that. And so, Wes, as I'm thinking about my sales approach as a founder, I know that I need to help people make a decision. I probably need to start helping them think through the problem that they're trying to solve. If you were sitting across the table from me and I'm saying, hey, Wes, how do I start to help people think through making a decision? What are the steps that you'd recommend that I would go through?
Well, you know, I say we have to match how we sell to match how we have to adjust how we sell to match how the prospect buys. So we've got to understand people. You know, are you coming to me with a spreadsheet? You know, my wife's very analytical, and she, God bless her, won't make a spreadsheet, but she's got a little notebook, and it's written in ink, and she'll flip through the pages. So I'm like, okay, you know, I got an analytical buyer here. You know, I'm walking in like, what kind of coffee y'all got here? You know, that's a nice looking car. You know, I changed my mind. I want that one. You got 7 kids. You can't get a Ferrari. Damn it. Okay, I'll take the minivan. You know, I mean, so you got to match. You got to read people. And most people don't. Even before this younger generation, most salespeople, you know, 50% are below average. That's just math, you know, and now even more are under average because we have no human interaction skills. So I have to, well, you know, we spoke a little bit before the recording, you know, with jujitsu. You've got to train enough that you're not surprised by what gets thrown your way, you know, and it's hard. It's hard to survive long enough to get good enough to handle whatever they throw at you. So then you need some kind of script. Okay. Most people hate scripts. I hated scripts as a salesperson, but I didn't, what I realized was that I hated bad scripts. Okay. And again, fish don't know that they're wet. I tell everybody, we're all living in the matrix. We're all living on stage, you know, all right. Hey, Chris, how are you? Chris says,
Freaking awesome, man.
I'm good. How are you? I'm good. Thanks for asking. You ready for Christmas? How was your weekend? Did you see the game?
I've gotten 3 of those calls this week.
Yeah. So we all live in a script. We just live in bad scripts. Okay. So like in retail, like I said, I worked retail. Most people will go, hi, how are you? What kind of car can I help you get in today? Like, really? That's your best question? So instead, if I'm selling furniture and you come walking in, I don't make a beeline for you. They call it right angle selling. It's literally, if you watch like Hitch, with Will Smith and pickup artists, I mean, you can't stare somebody down and walk across a crowded room eyeballing them with your hand stuck out. You kind of make it act like an accent, like you're bumping into each other. Oh, hey, how are you? And instead of, what are you in here for today? You ask, what brings you in today? All right. And you might say, I just dropped my kids off at the karate store next, across the street. It's freaking hot. I just want to come in out of the heat, and there's no room over there. I don't want to stay crowded in that little place for an hour. Hey, I hear you. We got coffee and water in the back. I got a TV back there. Don't tell anybody. The game is on. There's a comfy level, lazy boy. Get you some coffee and let me know if you change your mind. Wow. Okay. Thank you. Or, yeah, my daughter's going off to college. We need some furniture. Okay. But when we ask questions that people expect, we get the script. So our job in sales is to ask questions that the prospect cannot answer, or at least one they're not expecting. Okay. You see it in the, in the police shows, in the lawyer shows, they say in law, right? Don't ever ask a question you don't know the answer to. So, David Ogilvy talked about it, or Robert Collier, we must enter the conversation going on in the mind of the prospect. So I know what conversation you're having in your mind. You've rehearsed it. My wife and I will have our, we'll script this thing out. I'll give the signal, whatever, blah, blah, time to get out. Yes, this is a good price. Take that deal, whatever. So I gotta get in between. That's why they take suspects and they split them into different rooms, right? You got to interject. You got to, and it's not manipulation, because I'm just trying to get to the truth, because they're walking in shielded because they've been lied to and manipulated by all these pushy salesmen for the last 50 years. So they're just beat up. We're all beat up. And so when you meet an authentic individual that truly does want to help, you can kind of, let your guard down finally and say, well, here's what's going on. Okay, great. But it's hard. It takes time. And it's just this vicious cycle, right? Most sales managers didn't have really good sales training. They got promoted because they were the best salesperson. Now they're a manager. So all the attributes that made them a great salesperson make them a terrible manager, right? Lone wolf, aggressive, grinding it out, blah, blah, blah. Now they got to coach and nurture and teach and, ride shotgun and let their people fail sometimes. Let them blow a sale, let them give up some of the profits so they can learn, and so now the cycle just repeats itself. Now they're grinding them down. It's December 9th, man. You got, 22 days. What are you going to do? You're behind. Get out there and make something happen. And now they're grinding through the rest of the year.
That's also how Anthony tells me about our listeners.
Uh-oh.
He tries to grind me down on that. So there's a lot of stuff there, but I want to just recap, because I think there was some really good stuff. First of all, which is, and I think, Anthony, this is your point, which is it's the job of a salesperson. You can't, in a automated or marketing process, you can't analyze the needs of the buyer, whether they're an analytical buyer, emotional buyer. So your job then as a sales professional, particularly as a founder, is then to get to how the person, we'll call it the prospect, wants to think about solving this problem. And sometimes it's analytical, sometimes it's feeling, etc. And the way you do that is what Wes was saying, is you have to ask the right questions. Hits on a terrific point, Wes. Thinking Fast and Slow, I still think, is the best and most important business book ever written, even though it's not a business book, which is that fast mind is the script that you were saying, right? And then when you ask a pointed question, you have to the person across from you has to answer in a way that is not automated. It's something where they're actually having to think about. And so it's a terrific book on that. So I want to get to the speed round here, but I want to give a last kind of piece of advice for founders, Wes. We've talked about approach. We've talked about our mindset. Really, I think that what you're saying is it is the job of a modern sales professional and really as a founder to be a teacher, to be somebody who's teaching about the problem, the solution, how your solution could do it. Is that fair? And if so, how can I start to work on that skill of being a good teacher to the person sitting across from me?
I don't know that they should be a good teacher. The prospect has to get educated, okay? But it doesn't mean they have to get educated by you one-on-one. So if you're entering the conversation going on in the mind of the prospect, you can create those assets ahead of time. They can be a blog post, they can be a YouTube video, they can be a white paper, whatever. So you have that content. So in that regard, you're a good teacher, but you're creating those assets ahead of time. And ideally in your marketing and word of mouth or whatever, you're sharing those resources, the prospects are consuming them, and they come to you ready to buy. That's an ideal world. Okay. So now when you finally get in front of the prospect, because people don't change their minds. They reach a new decision once they have been presented new information, but they are the ones that have to internalize it and make it their own. Because if I say, oh yeah, this is the best CRM, you need to buy this one, I'm just selling you. You don't trust me. You have to look at it and go, well, what do you need? Well, I need to send emails. Okay. What else do you need? I needed to have e-commerce. Okay. What else do you need? I need, unlimited licenses for users. Okay. What else do you need? I need permissions. Okay. What else do you need? On and on and on. I need web forms. I need meeting links. I need on and on. Okay. What else? It needs to be under this price. Okay. What else? That's it. Okay. Well, here's this one. It misses that. Here's that one. It misses that. Here's 7 of them, and none of them do exactly what you need. So here's a compromise. Here's a compromise. Here's based on what you said, you can live with this. This one is more important. So based on what you're telling me now and the compromises you're willing to make, this is your choice. What do you think? And they have to go, yeah, you're right. That is the best compromise, most features, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Let's do it. Okay, great. So is that education? I mean, maybe we're splitting, maybe it's semantics. It's certainly helping them see the facts, but it's like you're guiding them along, because it really is, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear, right? You're helping them realize, like, oh crap, I was asking the wrong questions, had the wrong expectations, I had unclear expectations. Now I see what's going on. So let's go. So is that education? Yeah, maybe. Maybe it's mentorship. Maybe it's guidance.
Well, I get back to the original quote that you said, which is, I think it's a Zig Ziglar quote that says selling is a transfer of feelings, right? And so in this particular case, confidence being, I think, probably the one that's most important. All right, Wes, are you ready for the speed round? It's hypothetical. Because I just immediately hit the button, and I didn't say yes. Yeah, I was going to say this. Well, that was the assumptive close, Wes.
I'm entering the speed round against my will. I'm under duress.
That's fair.
I'm blinking. I'm blinking torture right now in Morse code.
All right. So answer the first thing pops in your head. Prospects say yes, but you sense regret coming. Should you lock in the signature or pause?
You ever listen to the Jerky Boys?
From
the 90s?
Yeah.
I slammed their head in the car. Said, "You going to buy this thing or not?"
I'm going to say probably pause. Your solution is better, but they're choosing wrong. Do you question their judgment, or do you let them make the wrong decision?
You can't force anybody to do anything. You can't force them.
Just like Anthony and I, I've tried to force him lots of different. Buyers trust you more than their judgment. Use that power to sell something more, or allow them to make the right decision.
Yeah, you gotta let them make the right decision.
Their objection is completely irrational. Should you be logical or emotional? Redirect.
You've got to be the calm one in the room, so you got to bring them down to reality, but how you do that, that's the art.
The trigger that closes this deal feels a little bit pushy. Use it or use a different tactic.
I don't think there's ever a trigger that closes a deal. I mean, if it's a one call close, something, okay, maybe, but I don't deal in that world. So,
or the assumptive close by just hitting the speed round buttons. Deep dive resources influence the psychology of persuasion. We put it on here all the time, but it is an absolute must read. Founders, The Psychology of Selling by Brian Tracy. But we are going to go and we're going to find out information directly from you, Wes. Where do we find out information? Where can we go to learn some of your wisdom when it comes to this work?
Man, I break all the rules because usually the people are sending you to a PDF and you're going to get this drip sequence, and then there's going to be a one-click upsell, and then there's going to be, but wait, before you leave, here's this $10,000 recording of my mastermind, and you can get it now for just $7. And you click that, and then but wait, here's $1 million mastermind. You can get this one for just $97. But wait. So I do a daily email, and I let you get to know me because I'm not in a rush. So it's my website. I think you put it up there, bjjandbiz.com/daily. And it's a daily email. And I recommend you write daily. It clarifies your thinking, helps you enter the conversation going on in the mind of the prospect. From there you get to know me. And then you can figure out if you want to talk to me. And if you don't, just unsubscribe.
Our problem is that every time we say that, people are like, no, we don't really want to get to know Anthony and Chris.
We're shocked at the following we have. That is for sure. Exactly. For those of you that are listening in and watching, thank you so much for tuning in. Please be sure to visit us at howtofounder.com, where you can connect with us on LinkedIn and subscribe to our YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify channels. Please, if you like the episode, if you like this, please go ahead and subscribe and leave us a review. We really would appreciate it. We all believe here at How to Founder that you are the pioneer of economic prosperity, and we're just so grateful for being there along the way with you. Thank you, everybody. Bye.